Praise the Lord, my beautiful, blessed souls. Back with another word. We are bruised and not broken. I am here. We are starting a new book. This is 1 Samuel chapter 1. We are going into Friday, June the 20th, and the word of the day is waiting. How should I respond in a time of waiting? As you wait, serve. The servant in the parable was praised for working diligently and intelligently while the master was gone. And you can be confident that Jesus wants you to be faithfully and wisely working, serving him right where you are as you await your next instructions. Now, this is going to play a big part because Hannah had to wait. God's response, this is Matthew 25:14 through 15 and 19 through 22. The kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a trip. He called together his servants and gave them money to invest for him while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of gold to one. After a long time, their master returned from his trip and called them to give an account of how they had used his money. The servants to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of gold said, "Sir, you gave me 5 bags of gold to invest, and I have doubled the amount." The master was full of praise. Now Matthew 25:21. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Now let's celebrate together. Now remember, when you're faithful in small things, God will bless you with more. So it's about your stewardship, if you're going to be a good steward or not. So we're going to look into this because we want to make sure we get into 1 Samuel. Hold on, I'm going to fix this. And we're going to get into this and we're going to look at this. And this is going to be a blessing to us. Oh, I don't want this thing falling. Okay, it's going to be a blessing to us. So let's get into it. All right. I'm going to read it and we're going to get started. It is a little lengthy, but it has a lot of meaning. Remember, this is after Ruth. So we're going into, let me show you the waiting. What is this? Oh, no. Yeah. The waiting. Okay, so now let's go into, there was a certain man of Ramathaim, Zophim, of the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, son of Elihu, son of Tohu, son of Zuph, and Ephrathite. He had 2 wives. The name of one was Hannah, and the name of the other was Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. I gotta find out how many. Now, this man used to go up year by year from his city to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. On the day when Elkanah sacrificed, he would give portions to Peninnah and his wife, and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he gave double portion because he loved her, though the Lord had closed her womb. We're going to get into that. And her rival used to provoke her grievously to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, she used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, "Hannah, why do you weep? And why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons?" After they had eaten and drunk in Shiloh, Hannah rose. Now Eli the priest was sitting in the seat beside the doorpost of the temple of the Lord. She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, "O Lord of hosts, if you would indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me, and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head." So now remember that from in Samuel. As she continued praying before the Lord, Eli observed her mouth. Hannah was speaking in her heart, only her lips moved, and her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli took her to be a drunken woman. And Eli said to her, "How long will you go on being drunk? Put your wine away from you." But Hannah answered, "No, my Lord, I am a woman troubled in the spirit. I have drunken neither wine nor strong drink, but I have been pouring out my soul before the Lord. Do not regard your servant as a worthless woman, for all along I have been speaking out of my great anxiety and vexation. Then Eli answered, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant your petition that you may have made to him. And she said, Let your servant find favor in your eyes. Then the woman went her way and ate, and her face was no longer sad. They rose early in the morning and worshiped before the Lord. Then they went back to their house at Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah, his wife, meaning he had relations with her. And the Lord remembered her. And in due time, Hannah conceived and bore a son. And she called his name Samuel, for she said, I have asked for him from the Lord. The man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer the Lord the yearly sacrifice and to pay his vow. But Hannah did not go up, for she said to her husband, As soon as the child is weaned, I will bring him, so that he may appear in the presence of the Lord and dwell there forever. Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Do what seems best to you. Wait until you have weaned him. Only may the Lord establish his word. So the woman remained and nursed her son until she weaned him. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her along with a 3-year-old bull, an ephah of flour, and a skin of wine. And she brought him into the house of the Lord at Shiloh. And the child was young. They then slaughtered the bull, and they brought the child to Eli. And she said, Oh, my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who is standing here in your presence praying to the Lord. For this is the child that I prayed for, and the Lord has granted me my petition that I made to him. Therefore I had lent him to the Lord. As long as he lived, he is lent to the Lord, and he worshiped the Lord there. So, this is interesting. We got to break this down. We see a lot of these women, and this is where the waiting comes in, because, she went through this for a period of time. She was mocked, by the other wife. And I wanted to talk about the polygamy, because remember, God didn't necessarily set up polygamy, but maybe the reason for it was because she couldn't have children. So maybe that was a reason, but that's not the first time. And every time that this happens, like Leah and Rachel, there was a battle. There was a battle for the man's love, his affection, all of these things. This is why God says you can't love two people. And this is why he made it the way he did, where we would have one. By the way, there's a series on Netflix that I was just watching, and it was so good, and it has a lot to do with this, what we're talking about. It's called on Netflix The Polygamist. It's an African show, but it is really good. If you go online and you'll see what happens, it is really good. But anyway, so what does 1 Samuel chapter 1 mean? We're going to look at this. Now, leading up to this point in Israel's history, there has been no central government. Israel has no king at this point. This was made several times, in the book of Judges, meaning they didn't have one. Another meaning for those statements is that Israel has been faithless and lawless, meaning resulting in subjugation to her enemies. So basically, she's under another rule. Now, God sent rescuers to break those cycles through Israel, though Israel continued to sink deeper and deeper into sin. So although he's sending people, they're still not getting their act together. So the last man to serve solely as judge was Samson. Only he began to break Israel out from the oppression, but not completely. So his efforts started against the Philistines. Now, he paved the way for this book's namesake, meaning Samuel, to complete the task. So their lives likely maybe overlap, though it's never stated that they met. Samuel will serve as Israel's last legitimate judge, and then the first prophet of Israel's new monarchy. So the story of Samuel begins with the poignant story of Samuel's mother, Hannah. Like the mothers of several significant men in the story of Israel, Hannah was barren. She could not have children until the Lord blessed her with a son, meaning over her womb. And the son was meant to change the course of Israel's history. Now, these birth narratives demonstrate God's sovereignty over his people and his faithfulness to his promises. Hannah's husband, Elkanah, lived in the hill country of Ephraim and had 2 wives. So he may have married, like I said, the second wife, Peninnah, because of Hannah's infertility. Now, every year the family traveled to Shiloh, of course, to the temple of the Lord, to worship and sacrifice offerings to the Lord and to have the feast. Their sacrifice was a peace offering shared between the Lord and the priests and those bringing the offerings. Remember, they set this up in Leviticus. Elkanah would divide the meat given to him into equal portions and to distribute it to Peninnah and all her children. And then he would give a double portion to Hannah, whom he loved, to honor her. Apparently, jealousy, meaning Peninnah, would then torment Hannah because she could not have children. So Then Elkanah would try to comfort Hannah, and this entire process became an annual tradition. What a wonderful thing to have someone, but So while polygamy is not the greatest, one year though, Hannah refuses to eat and goes to the temple to pray. Deeply depressed, she weeps and pours her heart out to the Lord. She makes, a vow to the Lord. Remember, God honors these. So vows, oaths, covenants, we discussed those before. And into giving her son. And that she would give him for a lifetime of service. So she conceived and gave birth because God honored it, right? So she includes in the vow that no razor will ever touch his head, and suggesting that, this is the Nazarite vow. If you remember, we discussed it before. So Hannah is overwhelmed with emotion that she catches the attention of the priest over the temple of Shiloh. This is Eli. He's watches as Anna, is in there. So he assumes she's drunk, of course, and then tells her, and then she assures him she's not. So she let him know she was praying. So Eli tells her, he sees that she's telling the truth. He blessed Hannah, affirms her prayer, and possibly even prophesies that God will grant her the petition. So Hannah leaves the temple. She's no longer sad after worshiping. Hannah and the rest of the family return home. So the Lord remembers Hannah. Now, when God remembers you, that means something's going to happen. And he acts on her behalf before long. Hannah and Elkanah conceive, and she bears the son, whom she names Samuel. Now, Elkanah takes Hannah's vow as his own, and possibly makes an additional vow the next time he goes to Shiloh for the annual sacrifice. He plans to pay that vow, meaning to God. They promised they would give him back if he gave him to them. So Hannah, however, does not go to the sacrifice saying that her son needs to be first weaned. She wants to wait till he's, finished being breastfed. So no longer relying on the nutrition for, he began to give in lifelong temple service. Elkanah agrees and prays that the Lord will establish his word, meaning that the gift of the child, despite the delay in keeping the vow. So now, when Samuel's weaned, they take a large sacrifice and they go ahead and they present him, So now we're going to get into exactly what all of this means, because remember, this is a lot. Okay, so now what I wanted to know, and I was asking when it came to why did it, because it said God closed the womb, right? And then he said he opened it. So I wanted to know what that was about, because we see a lot of this go on. We saw with Abraham and Sarah. I forget, it's a couple of them who were barren. And so I just wanted to know what this means. So why did the Lord close her womb? Now, this is one of the deepest questions, because this was one of the main issues, right? The Lord closed her womb. So the question, why would God allow this? It was not as punishment, but it was with purpose. So we're going to break it down. It was not about punishment. There is no evidence that Hannah sinned or was being cursed, because this is what we wanted to find out. She was faithful, devoted, and prayerful. So this was not judgment, but divine timing and purpose. Okay, so God closed her womb for a greater plan. This is why. If Hannah had a child easily, Samuel would have been ordinary. He would likely grow up in a normal family life, but instead, her pain led to desperate, powerful prayer. That prayer led to a vow of total dedication. The result in that was Samuel became a prophet, a judge, and a nation-shaping leader. So this is why. So it produced deep, real faith. So when we look at things, a lot of times we be thinking these is curses, and sometimes they're actually not. It's just God doing what he's doing. So now we're going to look at it. It produced real deep faith. Without the struggle, there's no intense crying out to God, no surrender, no spiritual breakthrough, because sometimes we think people lives is cursed when they go through a lot of stuff. Not necessarily. Hannah didn't pray casually. She prayed from her soul. So she was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. Now, the meaning of this is God sometimes allowed pressure to produce genuine faith and not surface level belief. So this is what this is about. It exposed the hearts around her. Yes, it did. Her situation revealed Peninnah, the other wives, how she felt about her, meaning mockery, pride, and comparison. God will let you go through some things to let you see, folks. He'll let you see how folks really feel. Eli, the priest, misjudged her at first. Hannah stayed humble, took her pain to God instead of attacking others, meaning difficult seasons reveal who people really are. Exactly. It was about timing, not denial. So this is where we get the waiting from. God didn't say no, he just said not yet. Why timing mattered. Samuel arrived at the exact moment Israel needed leadership and change. He would anoint kings such as Saul and David. Her delay lined up with national destiny. So God allows things to happen because he's lining everything up. Now, barrenness, like I said, as a biblical pattern, we're going to look at it. Hannah was not the only one. Remember Sarah? Abraham and Sarah. The result was she gave birth to Isaac, the promised lineage. Now, remember, that was an issue because they went and had Ishmael first. And remember, they did the polygamy thing. And every time this happened, they went out and did their own thing. They had a lot of issues because remember, Ishmael's kids and Isaac's kids, because Isaac was the promised and Ishmael was not, even though Ishmael was the first one, it's always issues. So it creates more problem. That's why I said watch that polygamous thing. Because folks think they can just have all these children and do what they want to do. It creates a lot of heartbreaking and heart-wrenching situations. Now, Rebecca, she also gave birth to Jacob. He was a nation founder. Remember, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Rachel, she gave birth to Joseph. These are all barren women. God had to open their womb. It was Joseph and Benjamin. Now, remember, it was Rachel and Leah. So Hannah, she gave birth to Samuel the prophet. So the pattern of barrenness, right, is shown here. There's barrenness, breakthrough, and purpose. So the full meaning, of course, this area is mentally it teaches patience. That's the waiting. It develops long-term thinking, yes. Emotionally, it turns pain into prayer, and it builds resilience. Physically, it shows limits of human control. It points to dependence on God. Life and opportunity, not everything comes when you want it, and some delays protect and or prepare you. Spiritually, it deepens trust, it produces surrender, and it builds relationship with God. The real core truth is God closing her womb was not rejection, cruelty, or neglect. It was preparation, position, and purpose building. Now, why it really happened is simple. God closed her womb so that when he opened it, it would produce something greater than she originally imagined. So not just a regular child, but, you know, one of those chosen ones. So, powerful life application today. A closed womb today can mean delayed opportunities, unanswered prayers, and feeling stuck and or overlooked. Jesus, that just it. Your life can look like that. It can look like that. It can really look like that. And God will allow it to look like that to you and to others to see how people gonna treat you. See? So when you do get in whatever place you're supposed to be, yeah, God already lets you see who you're not supposed to be fooling with. So the lesson is some things are not blocked, just like being rejected. They are being prepared for greater impact. This is why. So all the people that rejected you in that one season, don't worry, because it's God, part of God's plan. Why? Because he don't want the people around you nowhere, because they don't really care about you. Final answer in one line. The Lord closed Hannah's womb not to harm her, but to create a deeper faith, the right timing, and a greater purpose through her life. Ooh. I also wanted to know about the weaning age and the weaning stage. She said she was going to give him to the Lord and wait till he was weaned. So, weaning age in biblical historical time was in ancient Israel. Typical weaning age was around 2 to 3 years old, but sometimes it was up to 4 to 5 years old in some cultures. So that was a time when they were breastfed. What this means for Samuel is Hannah kept Samuel with her as a baby and a toddler. She nursed him, raised him, and bonded with him. But after the weaning age, maybe 2 to 3 or 2 to 5, she brought him into the temple permanently to live. This is what this means. So that means she gave him completely his life back to God. So he was still very young when he was given to God, but old enough to eat solid food and be separated from his mother. That was the purpose. Now, the emotional and spiritual being for Hannah was a huge sacrifice. She didn't just give birth, she gave him up early. So this is strong faith. Remember that. So she kept her promise even when it hurt. He gave him to her, she asked for it, and then she gave him back. So for Samuel, he grew up in God's presence from early childhood. His identity was shaped by worship, service, and God's voice. Deep faith and insight, the timing matters. Before weaning is dependence on the mother. After weaning is ready to begin his purpose. Ooh, that was early. Spiritual meaning, there's a stage of nurturing, then a stage of release into purpose. Life application, mentally, preparation phase comes before assignment. Emotionally, letting go is part of faith growth. Physically, growth stages matter. Don't rush purpose. Spiritually, what you dedicate to God early can shape destiny. Ooh, simple answer was likely 2 to 3 years old, possibly up to 5 when Hannah weaned him and brought him to serve for the Lord. Oh my God, I hate it when these stupid flies is in here. Oh my God, I'm almost sweat in my mouth, disgusting. All right, so we're gonna go back up because I wanted to know that, and then we're gonna get into and meat and potatoes. I just wanted to cover that real quick because I was like, I wanted to know what that was all about because that was in the beginning of the story and I wanted to figure that out. Okay. So now, when it comes to stronger than faith, waiting, all of these things, the core message is trusting God, because this is what it is. And the true strength comes from trusting God when everything around you says to fear it, to try to control it, or to imitate others. So when we're going through these things in life, these changes, especially these dry seasons, these seasons where we feel like we're going through the most, the pruning, the crushing, this is what this is about. Waiting, having stronger faith, holding on, trusting God, not trying to control everything. Sometimes we just got to back up and chill out, because if not, you would drive yourself crazy, because things are not going to happen. You can do what you want to, but the doors are not going to open until God is ready. So this is what this is about. And sometimes you have to just relax. And it's hard, because I was going through this myself, and how to trust God and rest in Him. Some people think that resting in Him means that you got to be doing stuff all the time. No, resting means trusting God. So although, things are not going, you don't have to be hustle and bustle. Relax, trust God. And I'm at that phase of my life where this is what I'm asking God. I'm trying to trust in Him more, where I'm not feeling like I have to control and do everything. I'm not trying to fix and do everything. Just sit down and let God be God. And sometimes we have to do that, because we get in God's way, just like they did with all these other extra children and marrying and polygamy. They didn't wait on God. And so they tried to do it in their own time, and it messed a lot of things up. And we're going to see this. So how faith is built. Faith begins in broken places. We got to wait. We got to have faith. Hannah was rejected. She was hurting, and she was desperate. She didn't give up. She prayed deeply, and she prayed specifically. So although she had faith, she was waiting. This is what this is about. Stronger faith lesson and waiting. Faith is not pretending that you're okay. Faith is bringing your pain directly to God, right? Because in the waiting season, this is how it's going to be. Today, it could be mentally. You don't suppress stress. You turn it into prayer. Your emotional pain can become purpose. Spiritually, God can respond sincerely, not to perfection. Spiritually, God responds to sincerity, not perfection. That's what we got to get to, because we think all this extra stuff. No. Faith requires listening. Now, Samuel hears God, but doesn't recognize His voice at first. Oh no, they're going too far. I don't need them to do that yet. Okay. Faith is not a tool. It is a relationship. Israel tried to use God for victory, but they lost because they lacked obedience. Stronger faith lesson. God is not a shortcut to success. Exactly. Faith requires respect and alignment. Today, stop using prayer only in emergencies. Build daily connection, not crisis faith. Faith versus fear of people. Israel wants a king. People compared themselves to other nations. No, I don't want to get that far yet. Weak faith looks strong. Saul versus... No, I don't want to do that yet either. No. Okay, faith in every area of our life. I don't want it to get too far, because it's going into other things. I don't want to do that. Mentally, having faith. Replace fear-based thinking with trust-based thinking. What if it fails? Meaning change it into God is still in control. Emotionally, faith. Move from anxiety and peace to let God stabilize your emotions. Physical faith. That's where the anxiety and all that come in. Physical faith. Act even when afraid. David didn't wait to feel ready, he moved. Financially, faith. Avoid fear-based decisions, meaning greed, rushing, and comparison. Trust long-term provision instead of quick gains. Yes, because a lot of times we see them get rich quick stuff and just no. Looks too good, sounds too good, no. Spiritual faith, daily connection, occasional prayer. We want to change that. Obedience and knowledge. We want to... So faith and community, meaning family. Hannah's faith affected generations. Your faith impacts your household. When it comes to churches, Eli's weak leadership caused collapse. Faith must be lived, not just taught. I didn't want to get that far. Government and leadership. Saul was chosen by people. He failed. Ooh. David was chosen by God. He was established. The lesson. Yeah, I don't want to do that. Hold on. It went a lot further than I wanted it to do. Okay. Okay, let's get into it. Why was Hannah barren? This was, okay. Was it a curse? No, it was not. Okay. He closed the womb. It was allowed by God, but it was not for a punishment of sin. It had its purpose. It was not about suffering. So we saw that spiritual purpose of barrenness. Hannah's barrenness created deep dependence on God, persistent prayer, and a miracle birth in Samuel. Strong faith, meaning God sometimes delays blessings, that's the waiting part, to produce transformation. Her pain produced a prophet who would lead a nation. Now, without barrenness, there was no desperate prayer, there was no vow, and there would be no Samuel. Now, the meaning to this is mentally and emotionally, Hannah felt rejected, ashamed, and provoked or punished. She compared herself to the other woman, meaning emotional pain can either break you or push you toward God. Now, opinion of the other woman, she had children, she was fertile, but she mocked Hannah constantly. This is when people have stuff that you don't have, and they want to compare and make themselves feel like they're better than you when this is not good. Because you see, God doesn't like that. And this is why you got to pay attention, because you could be up one minute and down the next. I tell people that all the time. Be careful how you treat people in any and every season, because you never know who's who and what's what. When you treat people terribly and poorly, that's a reflection of who you are as a person. That's where your heart posture is. That's who you are. Meaning represents comparison, pride, and visible success. People who measure value outwardly, and this is what this is, because someone is not somewhere where you are, that you see them as less value in your eyes as a human being, when God doesn't look at us like that, because our souls is what is more important. And trust me, the price of every soul, no matter what, was Christ going to the cross. So because of that, you are valuable. I don't care what the world says, you are valuable. You are valuable enough for Christ to go and die on the cross for you. That's how valuable you are. He said he would leave the 99 for that one that's lost, for that 100. So this is what it is. Polygamy context is very important. But in this culture, they'll make us think because that we're worthless. But that's from Satan. Polygamy context is very important. Elkanah had 2 wives, common in that culture, but not ideal. This created competition and emotional conflict. This is why having more than one woman is a problem, because this will always be the issue. And also, when it comes to the children, as we can see, favoritism. The children are not treated the same, because usually whoever the father loves, as far as the woman, those are the children he treat different, and that's the problem. So you create this whole situation of, comparison, jealousy, envy, this is what you do. And we see it all the time in families when certain children are loved more than others. This is a problem when certain children are cared for, taken care of more than the others. And I told my kids, I love you all the same, but in different ways. Why? Because all of you all have your different, ways about you. But the love is still the same. It doesn't change as far as how much I love you. Why? Because they have to know that you don't love one more than the other. Why? Because when you do that, you put them against each other. That creates issues where they will grow up hating each other and hating you for it. You don't want that. That creates strife. Cain killed Abel because of that. So, meaning human systems often create division. This is what this is, and insecurity. It's not God's perfect design, but something he worked through, because this is what they was doing on their own. Why? Because they always wanted something more. Now, why was the other woman fertile? Because I wanted to know, why was Peninnah fertile? It said life isn't always fair, of course, externally. Now, the one who honored God, Hannah, had no children. But the one who provoked her, Peninnah, had many. This is it. The lesson is visible success versus spiritual approval. Oh, Jesus. Say that again. Visible success, because a lot of people think that visually, because they are successful, that God favors them, that they are so blessed because of the world. Their blessings is of the world. But spiritual approval is different, because just because you blessed in the world doesn't mean you're blessed necessarily by God. Pay some attention to that. Now, contrast creates clarity. Hannah equals faith. Penna equals flesh, ego, and comparison. This is why this is a problem. Now, together they show two ways that people respond to life. One is to mock others. This is what Penna did, for what they did have and what they didn't. And a lot of people will do this to you, especially when you're going through different, stages of your life. And this is a problem. Like I said, that's a heart posture problem. Seek God. This is what Hannah did. Why? Because the ways that people respond to life, mock others or to seek God when you're having issues. So you're going to do one or the other. Now, the meanings of every names, I wanted to look at these because the names, all the names in the Bible always meant something. So Hannah means Chana, meaning grace and favor. See that? Insight, even though she suffered and her life looked like it was not that, back then you had to have children. You couldn't be barren. These were things. So looking like she was cursed, or for this time frame, and looking like her life was nothing, but God took that and used it for his own glory. God's grace unfolding. Her story shows grace doesn't mean that you're not going to struggle. This is what people think, because you get saved you're not going to struggle. No, it means you're going to have purpose in your struggle. So your life is not gonna, people say, oh, why would you serve God when you're poor, you're in the shelter, why would you turn to God? Because that is the time to turn to God. I mean, all the time it's time to turn to God, but I'm just saying, he's closest to the brokenhearted. So this is the time when you're going to actually bond. You're going to listen. You're going to be there. You're going to have this relationship with God, honestly, because of these reasons. And this is why he a lot of times allows these things. Now, remember, in, times to come, we're all going to be on the same playing field, because when the mark of the beast, all these things come about, folks is going to be with nothing. So it's not like you're going to have more than, no, we're all going to be, this is going to be the game changer, where everybody starts losing everything and everybody's on the same playing field. This is what this is going to be about. Now, Elkanah, and hopefully the people that had and don't know how to live without won't be running around killing themselves and everybody else, because that'd be the problem. Elkanah, meaning this was the husband. God has possessed, or God has created insight. Symbolism, God's authority over life. Even in confusion, God is still in control. Now, that was a nice name for him and his wife, between the two of them. Now, Peninnah, meaning pearl or precious stone. Insight. Outwardly, she probably was beautiful and valuable, but internally, she was harsh and provoking. So she had a terrible spirit on the inside. Outside, beautiful, and a lot of times you see that a lot. Lesson is, something can look valuable but still be spiritually unhealthy, or have less of value, or whatever you want to call it. Samuel, meaning heard by God, or God has heard. Insight is, his name represents answered prayer and faith rewarded. That's a beautiful name for him, because that's exactly what happened. Now, family dynamics then and now. Women's value was often tied to the children. Their fertility equals honor. So if you couldn't have children, that was a problem. Barrenness was shame. So now pressure still exists when it comes to success. This is what the value is now, these things. Success, comparison, productivity, and relationships. So this is where this is. Now, it's the same issue, but it's different forms. Why do they have what I don't? So now it's not about children and all that. It's about success, comparison, productivity, and relationships. If you're single, you're this. If you're that, this is what this is about. And it's ridiculous. Now, deep spiritual meaning with this is, Hannah's barrenness represents hidden seasons, meaning where nothing seems to grow. Yes. It's also preparation, God forming faith internally before blessing externally. It's all about calling. Samuel wasn't just a child. He was a nation-shifting leader. So God sent him specifically and answered that prayer for that reason. So God didn't just answer her prayer. Remember the vow she gave to him. This is one of the reasons why. If you give me this, I'm going to give him back to you. That means he's going to serve you. Do with his life what you will. So Samuel's birth in his life was not just a regular one. This is what this is about. Now, the key faith lessons in this is, God made delay for a greater purpose. Don't compare your seasons to others. This is another thing. Pain can produce destiny, and what looks like lack may be preparation. Also, your breakthrough can impact more than just you, and that may be the whole point. Now, the full dimension of it, we're going to look at the mental stuff. Mentally, comparison creates stress. It does. Faith creates focus. Emotionally, pain, it leads you to prayer. Mockery will lead you to motivation. Physically, barrenness equals limitation, but God overrides physical limits. financially, life and impact, shows unfair distributions in life at times, but it teaches us long-term versus short-term perspectives. Now, spiritually, God hears persistent faith, but faith is built in struggle, not in comfort. That's the only thing about that. Now, the powerful final truth about this: Hannah was barren not because she was forgotten, but because God was preparing her for something greater than an ordinary blessing. Meaning, he was preparing her not just for a regular child, but for a chosen child, okay, who his life would have destiny, purpose, assignment. He was born exactly for that reason. And we could go even further when we look at Hannah's prayer and the way she did it and how she asked for it. And how the story connects to modern stress, relationships, and purpose. She said no razor. She gave the vow. She let God know would come upon his head. So now we're going to look at this because we saw this with Samson. So Hannah's prayer and her vow. Remember, we talked about, the covenants, the contracts, and the vows before, and how, God honors them. It doesn't matter. You can get married and you can separate. You can divorce, but God still honored it, whether it was the right person or not. God still honored it. Why? Because this is what he does. We may not keep our vows and contracts and stuff, but God honors them. So even when we don't. So we're going to look at this. This was about the Nazarite type of dedication with the no razor. So we're going to break it down. Remember, we did the vow of no razor and be given back to God. So she said, if you would give me your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall come upon his head. Now, what does the no razor mean? Cutting of his hair. This is the Nazarite vow. We saw this in Numbers chapter 6. Now, the Nazarite vow equals special dedication to God. He's exclusive. There's no cutting of hair. There's no alcohol. There's no contact with dead bodies. He's fully set apart for God. So he's holy and separate. Meaning of no razor is the hair becomes a symbol of separation and of commitment. It shows discipline, identity belonging to God, visible sign of inward faith. Like Samson later, but Samuel's role was more spiritual. Why? Because his leadership role would be spiritual one more than a physical one. So she said, I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life. Hannah didn't just want a child. She wanted the child would be surrendered and given back to God. She was really saying, this blessing is not mine. It will belong to you. Use his entire life for your purpose if you just give him to me. So that was that. Now, the deep spiritual meaning behind that was faith that releases and not controls. This was very important. Most people pray, give me, give me, give me. Hannah prayed, give me, and I will give it back to you. So this is what really, got God's ear. Remember, he remembered her. How you doing? So now when it talks about stronger faith, stronger faith is trusting God with what you receive, not just asking, okay? And we're looking at stronger faith. We're looking at waiting because she still had to wait even after she prayed. Total life dedication, meaning not partially, not weekends, not occasional worship, all the days of his life. This was a lifelong process. And this had to be hard for her. Why? Because to finally have a child, you would want to keep that child. But she honored it and gave him back, which was the best thing. Now, identity from birth. Samuel didn't grow into purpose later. He was set apart before he was even born. And a lot of people are, whether they know it or not. Meaning purpose can exist before circumstances change. So if God already called you before, like he did with Jeremiah, he said it, I called you, I knew you before you was in your mother's womb. Then guess what? You were already, this didn't even have nothing to do with you, your parents, none of that. This was already a God's thing. He brought you here for a reason. And that's just that. Now, dimension breakdown is connected to this vow. When we look at this, we're going to see mentally the commitment mindset. Living with purpose, not just randomness. Emotionally, she was letting go. Hannah had to release her son. She had to give trust over attachment. Physically, his hair, visible sign of inward discipline. It couldn't be cut. His body reflects spiritual decisions. His life and his value is giving away what's not most valuable. Giving away what's most valuable. Trusting God with your greatest assets. And spiritually, fully surrendering. Being set apart from normal patterns. Why this mattered then versus now. Then the dedication meant physically serving in the temple. Visible lifestyle of separation. Now it would mean dedication will look like a different mindset, different decisions, integrity when others compromise. So now the hidden power in Hannah's vow. Hannah didn't just ask for a son. She created, What it was she asked for a prophet, which is Samuel, a leader who was anointed, who would anoint kings, and the turning point in Israel's history. A private faith decision equals public national impact. Key faith lessons from this vow: don't just ask for blessings, dedicate them. Real faith lets go of control. What you surrender to God, He multiplies in purpose in His own time. Commitment should be visible, like that, the no razor rule, and faith is proven through actual sacrifice. Now, simple, powerful summary. No razor wasn't about hair, it was about identity. The vow it wasn't about the child, it was about total surrender. So, we're going to look at these different things. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Now, what this looks like. And the meaning. So I wanted to look at these things, and we're going to look at this. Now, comparison to modern meaning, now and back then. We're going to look at this individually, right? You and our personal lives, what it look like. Waiting for a better job, financial stability, waiting on healing, waiting on a relationship, waiting on direction. It's going to take stronger faith, and it's going to take waiting in this process. Hannah's example is she didn't quit and or numb the pain. A lot of times we do, but this is what it is. She prayed honestly and consistently, and she waited. Hold on, give me 1 second. Now, modern faith action is to keep showing up for work, effort, discipline, pray with intention, not just stress reacting. And don't compare your timeline of yourself to others. That's what that look like. And it's not easy, because sometimes you're like, Lord, it's just taking forever. This is dragging out. Why is it taking so long? My life is just in a shambles. I'm ready to put it back together. What is the problem? What is the issue with all this? What is going on? Community, what this looks like today. People struggling differently. Some succeeding in life in certain areas, like Penia, that, some waiting, Hannah, type. Problems, comparison, mocking and or judging others. Pressure to look successful outwardly, usually, because that's the case. People be looking successful outwardly, but inwardly they going through a lot of issues. Faith-based community response, support instead of competing. Respect and hidden struggles, or respecting each other's hidden struggles and outer. Encourage people in waiting seasons, and having a healthy community that says your time is coming, don't give up. Because a lot of times, we see people just like, oh, you need to stop this, and you need to stop that, and you need to this, and you listen. I don't need you over here with that when I'm already dealing with a lot. I need you to go on over there. Don't be questioning what I got going on, because I need to do this because I know what's going on in my life, and this is what I need to do, and this is why. Now, when it comes to the church, back then in 1 Samuel, Eli was the priest. He did misjudge Hannah at first. He did. He thought she was just in there drunk. And spiritual leadership, they do that a lot even now. They judge you before, sometimes it's weak in certain places, But now churches also can mislead people's pain. They focus on appearance instead of the heart. Judgmental. All of these things happen, or they're just not being supportive on their end the way that they should be, because they're focused on the church and not the people, and that's a problem. They should be focused on the people and not the church and the building itself, because God didn't call us for that. Stronger faith model churches should create space for honest prayer, like Hannah's. Teach persistence, not just quick blessings. Build people for purpose and not just comfort, because this is a problem. They always want comfort. Oh, you get a blessing. It's not always this issue. Nah, it don't work like that. Government and their systems. We're going to look at this because this has a lot to play with things too. Then people rejected God and demanded a king. They wanted control and security. They still want it now. They didn't want to wait on God's timing. A lot of time we don't want to do that either. Now, for now, people's trust systems are in money and policies and leaders more than God. Even back then and now, you see it. Faith lessons. Systems can help, but they are not ultimate. Rushing for control like Israel did leads to long-term problems. Exactly. Moving before God, doing things out of order, out of alignment. Yes, you can mess up, rearrange what he's trying to do. Modern examples, quick fixes versus long-term solutions. Yes. Fear-based decisions versus faith-based patience and decisions. This is what this is about. Folks will say, oh, just move, just do this, just do that. You're going through some stuff. And you might need to stay where you are because maybe that's right where God wants you to be instead of upping and leaving. But you got to have that, I'm going to, figure this out. I'm going to let him wait on God and let him, show me where to go and what to do. People like, I'm not. You just, see? You ain't making enough money. Just leave. Just do this. Maybe you're planning right where God wants you to be for whatever reason. And if you move and you leave, you're going to miss what God's trying to do. Sometimes this is what we do. Leaders, work, and authority. Saul versus David principle. Saul equals rushed, insecure, image focused. David equals patient, prepared, and faith driven. Now, today's leaders often rush decisions, lead from pressure, and focus on image. Now, faith-based leadership will wait before acting. They will build character before promotion, and they're going to stay humble in success. Now, 6 is the waiting seasons, which is the big one. What waiting looks like today. Feeling stuck, others moving ahead of you, and no clear answers yet. It looked like that back then. Hannah's model. She did not waste the waiting. She prayed, she trusted, she made a vow, a commitment. Modern day, Hannah mindset and waiting. Instead of complaining, comparing, and quitting, do the opposite. Prepare, pray deeply, stay consistent, and build discipline. Now, having faith today in a practical way, faith is not ignoring reality. It's not being passive. It's not waiting without action. Faith is trusting while acting, being consistent without results yet, keeping integrity even when unseen. Now, real life breakdown is mentally. You would say replace why me with what is this preparing me for? Emotionally, let pain push you toward growth, not bitterness. Physically, stay active, work, build, and improve. Financially, don't rush so you don't make bad decisions because of pressure. Build slowly and wisely, because this is what this is about. When you rush, you mess stuff up. Now, spiritually, daily connection with God, not emergency only prayers. That means, have your prayer time with the Lord regimen, of these that I hate these, and they love to start when I'm trying to do it. So then versus now, we're gonna look at it. First Samuel, waiting for a child, now waiting for opportunities and stability. Rival wife causing pressure. This will be social media, comparison culture. That could be, or whatever that is. Your family, your friends, telling you whatever. Temple dedication and life purpose and calling. That would be now. That was then. Back then, prophets guiding people, and now it would be many ignore spiritual guidance. Back then, it was demand for kings, and now it's dependent on systems and control. So, key truths to today, waiting is not punishment, it's preparation. Not everyone ahead of you is better positioned. God is building something unseen first. Faith requires patience and action together, because faith without works is dead. What you dedicate to God can impact others. So, simple modern examples. When you have a job, you're qualified but not promoted yet. Build your skills and stay consistent. When it comes to money, you have slow progress. Avoid shortcuts. Build discipline. In relationships, they're not happening yet. Focus on growth and not comparison. In leadership, you're not being recognized. Develop character privately. Your time will come when God wants it to come. Final message, what happened to Hannah wasn't just about a child. It was about learning how to trust God in the waiting. That's where the stronger faith come in there. And today, your waiting season is not empty. It's where your strength, discipline, and future impact are being built. So with that being said, I hope that this word was a blessing to you guys, because I'm going to tell you, this was a blessing to me for several reasons, because it seemed like I had been waiting or in this process season for forever and a day, seem like. I don't know what that's about. Seem like my whole life in the process. I be saying to myself, Lord have mercy. Do I have to go through everything? It's crazy. Then I'll be patiently waiting. I'm like, oh Lord, how many years? But honey, we can't even talk because which Cola took 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Folks had to wait. Just, Jesus Christ, it took him 30 years to even launch his ministry. I said, Lord, 30 years? That's a long time. Woo, the wait, Jesus. But anyway, it just is what it is. And we just gotta have faith. And that's why, the other day when I was out, and I think I had posted up, because we be focused on whatever we got going on and trying to make it more, bigger, better, coming up with all this stuff. We want to do more. We want to have more. We want to be more. We're always looking for more. We're never content with where we are. And sometimes we have to just stop and enjoy the ride, the life itself, and enjoy the present moments. And we don't do that when we're always, working on looking for something else. Sometimes we have to. So I was out smelling the roses and I had me some ice cream. I was just sitting in them. And I'm learning, God is teaching me how to wait better. And I don't like it because, but it is what it is. And it changed my mindset with it on how I wait and how I look at it, and how some things are for me. If it's rejection, it's protection. He take things away, he block things, whatever it is for my protection, to keep whatever it is that I'm not supposed to be around, to be places, things away from me, which is the best thing for me, because they don't have any good things towards me. And he knows that, and I may not see and hear all of what they got going on. He might let me see and hear bits and pieces here and there, but you never really know the full demographic. And he always says you won't know until the time comes, when it'll all make sense when it's revealed in its time. And so I just try to hold on to that. So if that helps anyone, hold on and keep holding on. Just go ahead and keep holding on, okay? And if you're holding on by a thread, baby, just keep holding on by a thread. But anyway, we are bruised and not broken. I hope that this word was a blessing to you. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We are in 1 Samuel, and we are just getting started. This is going to be King Saul. This is going to be David. This is going to be Goliath, Jonathan. There's so much in 1 and 2 Samuel. We're going to take our time. We're going to unpack it. We're going to talk about it and discuss it from then until now. We're going to see how, these situations and circumstances affect our lives, and how, we see ourselves in this back then and now, and how it makes a lot of sense. So it can help us, because the Bible, this is what the Bible is all about. It is a roadmap. It is a guide. It is our, roadmap of life. It's the Bible is the manual to our lives, what God told us to do. Hold on. So right now, this is what we need to be doing. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And give me 1 second. I messed up my door. Hold on, cause I'm the only one here, and give me a see.
705. Another key. Another kickable. Hey, Mama.
You gonna open it and bring it right back, right?
Yeah, Mama.
So, be blessed. I apologize for that. So that's what we're doing, and we're gonna look at it. Like I said, like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. My link is in the Cash App, and we're just gonna walk through this, and we're gonna get this 1 and 2 Samuel. Take our time and be blessed in Jesus' name. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Okay. I apologize. So with that being said, I hope this one was a blessing. We're going into June the 20th and waiting. Waiting. When you're waiting and having to have strong faith godly faith to wait on the Lord for whatever it is this is how we wait. And I'm going to let this one go. I hope this is a blessing to you guys. Be blessed in Jesus' name. Amen.